welcome to you as you join us on today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuluko. The program is Tax Matters. How's your week been and how is business going? The month of July is gradually coming to an end. And of course, you know that VAIDS, the Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, recently declared by the federal government of Nigeria in collaboration with all the state governments, has taken off fully. VAIDS took off on July 1st and will run till March 31, 2018. VAIDS affords everyone who has issues with his or her tax matters to come out clean and tidy up. And we're talking here about under-declaration of taxes, underpayment of taxes, even non-payment. If you come out now to declare under VAIDS, you will not pay interest due on those unpaid taxes for the next 6 months, July to December 2017. As for penalties, no penalty will be levied on you for the entire period of VAIDS, July 2017 to March 31, 2018. Of course, you will not be subjected to criminal prosecution for tax evasion. There will be no tax audit or investigation. Plus, you have the opportunity to negotiate to pay instrumentally over a period of 3 years. VAIDS, Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme, concerns all taxes: company's income tax, personal income tax, capital gains tax, value added tax, withholding tax, petroleum profit tax, all taxes. My advice: visit the VAIDS website now and read up all you need to know about VAIDS. And more importantly, print out the forms. There's form VA1 for individuals and VAIDS form VA2 for companies. And if you prefer one-on-one encounter, go immediately to any office of the Federal Inland Revenue Service or that of a state internal revenue service, because VAIDS is a collaborative effort between federal and state tax authorities. It concerns the entire country and everybody is on board. The VAIDS Form A2 for companies demands answers to certain simple questions: name of company, the address of the company, the RC number from CAC, taxpayer identification number, BVN, shareholders, share capital, income and assets being declared, e.g. land, movable properties, shares, other investments. VAIDS Form VA1 for individuals is pretty much the same. It requires answers to simple questions like your name, your TIN number, your address, your BVN. Are you a taxpayer? Have you previously paid taxes or you have not paid before? In that case, you are required to supply information on movable properties, immovable properties, jets, yachts, cars, vessels, investments like bonds and shares, information on disposal of assets, date of acquisition, date of disposal, details of buyer, your salary, your rental income, gifts, inheritance. We can go on, but before we wrap up this segment, let's share with you the contents of a document we found among the VAIDS pack that is available for distribution at all tax events around the country beginning from July 1st. It's addressed to patriotic Nigerian, every town, every state in Nigeria. This is the VAIDS pack. And inside the pack, you will find this flyer: no interest, no penalties, no tax prosecution, no tax audit. And after 6 months, tax interest applies. All that we have told you before. There's something on frequently asked questions. And then there's one they call authorities file. That is tax authorities file. And it contains different scenarios. It has information on the kind of persons and companies, the kind of individuals and companies that require to take advantage of the VAIDS scheme. Let's go through a few of them. Example 1, the full-time employee who has multiple income sources. You are in paid employment. You work in a bank or an oil and gas company or even a government agency, and you pay taxes under personal income tax pay as you earn. In fact, it is your employer who deducts on a monthly basis and remits to the appropriate tax authorities. Bravo! You even have tax grant certificates covering years back up to the present. So on the surface of it, you are a good, compliant taxpayer. But BVN records with the CBN indicates that you have a fixed deposit of 25 million naira. Land registry records indicate that you have properties in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. What's the conclusion? You are paying taxes only on your salary income. That is tax avoidance and tax evasion rolled into one. Our advice, go and get VAIDS Form A1 and regularize your tax records. Example 2, the retiree, the pensioner. Pensioners don't pay taxes. Yes, no. We have always discussed that on this program. No, pensioners don't pay taxes on their pension income. That chekere money that they collect on a monthly basis. Even the bulk gratuity that is paid upon retirement is non-taxable. But then you have retired, but you are not tired, and you start a small business on the side. Any income that you earn is subject to tax. In fact, for the purposes of VAIDS, the tax authorities are looking back several years. What were those other sources of income that you did not declare? Much like the first example. What are we saying? You were working in a bank and you were paying an average personal income tax of 2.4 million naira per annum, and you have done that in the last 10 years. Una try. It's not a joke to pay 2.4 million naira in taxes on a yearly basis. But that has been on your main salary alone. Data available to tax authorities and data from various land registries and BVN and CAC indicate that your main residence is in Kaduna. But in that same Kaduna, you have another prime property in GRA. Information from the Canadian tax authorities indicate that you own a property in Ontario, Canada, which you purchased with a 50% mortgage in the year 2008. In the UK, land registry records indicate that you sold a property in the year 2015 for £420,000. That property had been purchased by you in the year 2000 at the rate of £78,000. You have made capital gains. That's what it's called, capital gains. And the gain has not been repatriated to Nigeria and is subject to tax in Nigeria. Conclusion, you have underdeclared your income going back several years. The UK property, like we said, has triggered capital gains. Go and get VAIDS from VA1 and declare all those incomes you were earning during your working life that you did not declare. Let's look at another scenario. Let's go the way of companies. YO Nigeria Limited is a manufacturer of beverages with a yearly sales turnover of 28 billion naira. But it has been discovered that the company does not or has not been declaring in full the sales figures. It has been declaring about 65% of true sales figures. This was discovered from bank statements which revealed discrepancies in sales figures. The company's directors, husband and wife, and their child, their son, have been profiled, and the husband and wife have been discovered to own 4 prime properties in Lagos State, valued at 400 million naira. but they have been paying taxes averaging 2.5 million naira every year, 2.5 million apiece, which you will say is also not too bad. Oh yes. But the wife also has an apartment block for rent in Asokoro, Abuja. Conclusion of the tax authorities. YO Limited maintains 2 sets of books and the 3 directors are obviously understating their incomes. YO Limited is advised to go and get VAIDS from VA2, while the directors must go and procure VAIDS from VA1 and declare their undeclared incomes.
London, New York or Lagos, business or holiday, home or office. You can now carry out your tax transactions from anywhere in the world. You can now file all your tax returns, pay online, get a receipt and even process your tax clearance certificate from anywhere in the world online and in real time. All you need to do is log on to www.firs.gov.ng and click on e-services and be introduced to the world of innovation, convenience and transparency from the FIRS. You can also pay stamp duty as you register a new company with the CAC or for other transactions that require stamp duty payment online. You can also file your withholding tax returns and determine the withholding tax deducted from you is in government covers so that you can get your receipt within 45 days as long as the deduction has been remitted. Yes, all of this and more online at www.firs.gov.ng/e-services. FIRS, making tax administration as easy as ABC. Please note that all FIRS services are free of charge. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service. It pays to pay your tax.
Welcome back. The program is still Tax Matters and we move on to other matters. The executive chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, Mr. Babatunde Fowler, is one man who loves his job. You will see it in his demeanor anytime you come across him. He's always smiling and he takes every opportunity to preach the gospel of voluntary tax compliance. The other day, on Friday the 7th of July 2017, Mr. Fowler was the special guest, in fact, chairman of the day's occasion at the 44th Annual General Meeting and Congress of the Association of Advertising Agencies in Nigeria, AAAN. Did Mr. Fowler take advantage of that occasion? Boy.
It's my pleasure to welcome our chairman of the occasion, and who is a distinguished Nigerian, a friend of ours. No matter the circumstance, you look at him, he will smile at you, but you still have to pay that tax. So please welcome Mr. Babatunde Fowler, Chairman, FIRS, that's Federal Inland Revenue Service. Clap well, so that he doesn't remember you haven't paid your tax. So I want to do your marketing for you. Did you get this? This is to teach you how to remember to pay tax. So you have to study this very well. And when you get back, make sure you check all your books and be sure that even withholding tax is paid. Did I do right, sir? Okay.
Let me first of all say I'm extremely delighted to be here. It's not very often that taxmen are invited to functions, talk less, or being asked to chair one. As a body, I believe in general terms, you make things work. Without you, very few things could happen in this country. Your theme of today's conference, Fresh Thinking, is actually what Nigeria requires right now. Nigeria is going through a period of change where fresh thinking is required. As much as people don't like to listen to tax talks or even read tax material, I must say that your members have made it more interesting to the point that we had a tax rally yesterday in Abuja and across the nation. And we found out people were actually running to try and get some of the information. So I think on that note, I would like to congratulate all of you for your capacity and for your, I'll call it fresh thinking. Now, what have we done as tax administrators? In 2016, for the first time in this country, we granted a tax amnesty for 3 years between 2013 and 2015, which allowed all corporate organizations to come forward and declare their outstanding taxes without payment of penalty and interest. And we did, like I said, partner with some of your members, and within 45 days, we were able to raise 27 billion and also an additional 50 billion, which will be paid over the next 9 months. Now, the federal government also looked at our general tax position and came up with another, I'll call it tax amnesty, called VAIDS, which is Voluntary Asset and Income Declaration Schemes. And under that scheme, both individuals and corporate organizations have the opportunity to come forward, declare their assets, and also the taxes that are due. And they'll be given up to 3 years to pay the outstanding taxes without any interest, without paying any penalty, and also without prosecution. Now, what have we also done as tax administrators? One issue about tax, apart from providing information as to how to pay, what to pay, is an issue of convenience. So we launched recently 6 online ICT solutions. We also have a solution for those who are registered but don't have tax ID numbers, or to basically just visit our website, and we have actually auto-generated numbers for them to be used. We did launch the following initiatives. Right now, you can actually pay all your stamp duties online. You can file all your returns online. You can download your receipts and confirm your receipts also online. For some of your customers where you work either for the state government or for large corporations, and they withhold your withholding tax, and you hope that they remit that amount withheld, and you find out that sometimes they don't remit it, within 45 days, right now, you'll be able to tell whether that withholding tax has been remitted on your behalf or not. All that is required is that you register with an email address that you want information to be sent to, and the moment any tax is paid on your behalf, you will get an email informing you that it has been done, and you can download that receipt and also verify it with a smartphone. You can also request for a tax clearance certificate online without even leaving your office. And all these solutions can be done anywhere in the world at any point in time, 24/7.
There's a common saying that if Muhammad does not go to the mountain will come to Muhammad. When Mr. Fowler is not on the road preaching the gospel of voluntary tax compliance, he's back in his office receiving visitors, and the job is pretty much the same. And we have discovered that Mr. Fowler has a soft spot for children. After all, like they say again, it's good to catch them young. On Wednesday, the 7th of June 2017, Mr. Fowler, ably assisted by top officials of the FRS, was in the office at Revenue House to receive students from Starville School, Gwarimpa, Abuja.
The fact that you have come shows that you're quite concerned with the well-being of our dear country, Nigeria. Every country across the world has known and has realized, including Nigeria, that for sustainable development and for consistent revenue to government, the only way is through taxation. The Federal Inland Revenue Service is an agency that provides money to all tiers of government: the federal government, state government, and the local government. Nigeria as a country did not rely on taxation for a long time. In the 1970s, which may seem a very long time to most of you here, but in the history of the country, it's not too long, when we discovered oil. The leadership of the country then decided that we should not bother companies, we should not bother individuals on asking them to pay tax. Instead, we'll sell our oil, and that will be enough. And for a number of years, that was enough revenue for this country. And if you speak to your parents, they'll tell you at one point in time, the exchange rates to the dollar to the naira was 1 for 1.
What kind of taxes do schools pay?
There's a general tax that everybody is expected to pay, and that is what we call VAT. And so when you go to a shop and you buy certain items, you buy a computer, or you buy your iPad, or you buy a telephone, that you're supposed to pay what we call VAT. That's the tax. It's a consumption tax. When your school gives out contracts, maybe for them to supply a new bus to your school, there's a withholding tax element of it, and also a VAT tax element of that. And of course, if your school is a limited liability concern, it's also subject to what we call company income tax. Now, because education is extremely important, there's also an education tax that organizations pay to help in the area of education. There's also what we call the National Information Technology Development Levy, and that's also to promote technology within Nigeria. So there's certain taxes that we collect to help promote certain sectors of the economy.
Mr. Fowler ended with this charge.
So when you go home, it will be nice to ask your parents and ask them if they have a tax card, both mommy and daddy. Now, if they don't have a tax card, you should tell them that it's best that they go and get a tax card as soon as possible. And they'll ask you why. And you simply tell them because you want Nigeria to be better.
This is about the first organization that will give us this kind of welcome. It's unique and it's a privilege for me to sit this close to the chairman. Thank you very much, sir. That all top management team members will sit with students and just, to welcome them and make them understand what you do. We really appreciate it.
An excursion it was, an educational visit, and so the courtesy call on the FRS was actually an interactive session.
So come and use my mic.
The book Rich Dad Poor Dad said that rich people are able, that tax doesn't really affect them. That gets to the point that they don't really pay. But then he said that taxes are based on what you work, like your place. Like if you're really not that able to get enough income, get less, you pay less tax.
It's unfortunate, but some of the very rich people, that own companies, everything that they need goes through the company. They'll have an official airplane, an official vehicle, they'll have official stewards, they would even have official lunches at home and call it a business expense.
The executive chairman made presentations to the young lads. On the same day, another group of students came calling, this time university undergraduates under the auspices of the Economics Students Association of the Nasarawa State University.
Anytime people come to visit a tax agency, it's time for us to celebrate a little bit. In the days of old, the taxman was always known as the person most feared and most disliked. But I think in changing times, our occupation has been a bit more accepted, and I'm sure that as students of economics, you've been listening to the economic situation of Nigeria. Prior to this time, from the 1970s or mid-70s, the issue of cash wasn't really a problem. We had just started the first oil boom. And during that period and subsequent periods, as long as the oil was flowing and the federal government and the state governments believed that they had enough resources to provide on their mandates, not much attention was drawn to tax administration. Each tier of government has specific taxes that it's permitted to collect. The main taxes that the FIRS collects are corporate taxes, taxes from limited liability organizations, while the state's main tax is payee tax, taxes for individuals. And then we have VAT. Once it's collected, the FIRS or the federal government takes 15% of that and 85% of VAT is shared between the states and the local governments.
Again, there was a question and answer session. On behalf of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the executive chairman made presentations to the visiting university students. There were more delegations that paid courtesy calls on Revenue House Abuja. We thought we could bring you all of them on this episode, but because of time constraints, we have to shift them to a subsequent episode of the program. So let's meet again on this station, same day of the week, same time of the day, next week. In the meantime, we're enjoying you to go out there and do the needful, especially in this season of VAIDS, Voluntary Assets and Income Declaration Scheme. Come out clean and all your sins will be forgiven. See you next week.